Conshohocken is a 1 square mile borough located just 15 minutes from Center City, Philadelphia. Fayette Street is a rich mix of residential homes, small businesses, restaurants, and corporate giants, all feeding into the success of the Conshohocken community. The borough was incorporated on May 15, 1850. 24 years later, in 1874, a group of dedicated residents determined that the formation of a fire company would be in the best interest of the community. This is the story of the Washington Hose and Steam Fire Engine Company No. 1, known as Washies. In January of 1874, members of the newly formed fire company elected Jacob Ulrich as president. Mr. Ulrich also served as the town burgess from 1900 to 1902. Ulrich and other elected officers of the company wasted no time securing a garage on Forest Street to house their first horse-pulled water wagon. Following several fundraising events, company members were able to purchase a second-hand clap fire engine, complete with a horse carriage and 1,000 feet of hose from the Fame Hose Company No. 1 of Wilmington, Delaware, for $3,000. The second-hand apparatus arrived at the West Conshohocken train station of the Reading Railway on March 28, 1874. Accompanied by the members of the Fame Hose Company and their band, the parade unit of the Washington Fire Company, formed shortly after incorporation in 1874, made its first public appearance in regalia and marched from the West Conshohocken freight station to the firehouse on West Hector Street. In a gala celebration, the parade participants escorted the company's first horse-drawn steamer across the Old Iron Bridge and through the main streets of the borough with Miles Stemple in the driver's seat. Nearly 3 years after incorporation, members of the company set their sights on a piece of property to build their own firehouse. Negotiations were started with the borough to purchase a lot from the town council, fronting on West Hector Street, a site adjoining the borough hall. The borough asked for $800 for the lot and for the company to pay $250 annually as ground rent. This proposition was refused. The fire company made a counteroffer in which the company agreed to purchase the lot adjoining the corner and to give fire protection service for a term of 10 years in payment. The borough agreed, and plans were made to build a firehouse adjoining the borough hall. Progress in constructing the building was rapid. A fair was held and $1,000 cleared. Bids were received for a 3-story building at a price of $3,800, or a 2-story building for $3,200. The members opted for a 2-story building, with members of the company providing much of the labor. The first floor was to be finished right away, and the second floor to be finished at a later date. Fairs, steamboat excursions down the Delaware River, and other activities and fundraisers were held to raise funds. The 2-story building was completed at a cost of $3,650.54. The Washies members quickly learned that attending parades in the surrounding communities could be entertaining and profitable. Parades at the time provided great entertainment for the residents and allowed participating firemen to compare notes and learn firefighting techniques. Members of the Washington Fire Company became pupils of the parade and earned thousands of dollars over the years in prize money. Washington firemen in 1900 posed for a photograph in the basement of the firehouse following a parade, showing off their prized first-place finish. Fire companies were judged on presentation, dress, and marching perfection. The Washington Fire Company had 2 rules on parade days: show up on time, and never could you have a drink before the parade. A few of the early members seen here include Jones, Stemple, McCarter, Mason, Shaw, Garnett, Dunlap, Bailey, and Stott. By 1900, the Washington Fire Company had added some much-needed equipment, like the 3 firefighting wagons and 5 horses seen here, preparing for a parade. Although the fire company owned 2 horses for a short period of time, it became too expensive to house and maintain the animals, so they eventually sold the horses and made agreements with several nearby farmers for the use of their horses for fires and parades. In 1915, those horses and wagons were definitely needed when the Washies were called upon to help battle an out-of-control fire at Beaver College, today's Arcadia University in Glenside, Pennsylvania, more than 15 miles away. In 1908, it was decided to add a 3rd story to the building to provide a much-needed public hall for the community, and to also provide a means for additional revenue for the company. The company did not have the funds to make the addition, but as it was badly needed, Miles Stemple agreed to supply the funds, accepting only the company's word in recognition of the obligation. The addition was built at a cost of $10,000. Once again, firemen of the Washington Fire Company provided the labor, as they did for the original 2 stories of the building. Members of the company would work all day in the steel mills, factories, and textile mills, then report to the firehouse after work to work on the addition, lifting and moving bricks, mixing mortar and lumber, and contributing any other labor that was needed. Reuben Stemple, one of the 3 sons of Miles Stemple, was also a longtime fireman. Reuben Stemple's hotel and bar was just around the corner on Fayette Street. He provided a great incentive for the workers who were volunteering their time building the firehouse. While providing free labor, the firemen would get very thirsty. Reuben would often send for a round of drinks written on a brick signed by Stemple. The bartender at the hotel would recognize Stemple's signature and happily pour a full round of beer for the thirsty workers and stack the bricks behind the bar. It didn't take long for the firemen to figure out a way to help themselves to a free party or 2 on Stemple. It became a frequent scene in the hotel bar that a rather large contingent of the firemen would enter and start an argument with the barkeeper at one end of the bar. While the barkeeper engaged in a verbal tussle with the men, a few of the firemen would slip behind the bar and retrieve a few of the bricks with the coveted chalk markings that read, "Good for a few beers, RS." Before long, the workmen had their own stash of bricks that proved as good as any credit card given in a bar today. Motor firefighting apparatus was being gradually adopted by the departments in the large cities, and members of the Washington Fire Company believed that the response time to a fire would be greatly reduced with a motorized fire truck. In the summer of 1914, a gasoline fire engine was purchased, and on October 7, 1914, the new Type 12 combination pumper and chemical fire truck arrived at the station. The new machine was housed on October 10, 1914, and a check in the amount of $9,150 was paid in full at the time of the housing. Their second motor truck was a 1919 combination chemical and ladder truck, purchased at a cost of $8,750. The housing of the new truck in 1920 made for a gala day in the borough. At a public meeting and banquet, Miles Stemple was given the honor of burning the building mortgage. Later that evening, he presented the truck makers with a check for the full price of the machine. The company was free of debt and in possession of equipment far superior to that found in towns twice their size. During the company's early years, no one worked harder than Miles Stemple in making the Washington Fire Company as successful as it was. On May 30, 1920, Stemple was severely injured in a fire at the Moose Home, and yet he never missed a fire up until his death a year later. Miles Stemple passed away on August 20, 1921, from liver trouble and other complications. Stemple was a man of rare achievement, as his name was known in many states for his ability and knowledge on firefighting. He served on the Conshohocken Council from 1905 until 1919, when he decided not to run for the council seat again. He was praised as chairman of the Trees and Pavements Committee, along with a long list of lifetime achievements. Although Miles died a year after sustaining injuries at the Moose Home fire, it was declared that he died from those injuries, making him one of 2 Washington firefighters to die in the line of duty. Ed Lobb also died in the line of duty while answering a fire alarm. Miles Stemple is buried at the Riverside Cemetery in Norristown with his wife Margaret. In 1924, celebrating 50 years of service to the community, Washies invested in yet another truck, a more powerful combination pumper and chemical motor truck with a capacity of 1,000 gallons of water per minute. The 1924 pumper truck is still in possession of the fire company, celebrating 100 years of service as of 2024. During Hurricane Agnes in the summer of 1972, the 1924 pumper worked for more than 40 hours straight, pumping out the basements of flooded residents and many of the factories along the river. As an antique showpiece, the truck has appeared in hundreds of parades over the years. Just a few years after purchasing the 1924 pumper truck, it was put to an extreme endurance test. Members of the Washington Fire Company would take part in battling the worst fire in the company's 150-year history. At 6:45 p.m. on January 28, 1928, with more than a foot of freshly fallen snow on the ground, the fire alarm sounded at the Washington Fire Company's headquarters. There was a fire at Villanova University, located on Lancaster Pike in Villanova. Washies responded with 6 firemen, including driver Jesse Stemple. When Washies arrived at the campus, it was sheer chaos. The fire was one of the most spectacular ever seen in this vicinity. It illuminated the sky for a radius of many miles. The fire started at the northeast corner of the series of buildings and quickly broke through the roof, then streamed in a long plume of flame over Monastery Hall and the Church of St. Thomas. Stemple and Johnny Rigg, also of the Washington Fire Company, determined that they should position their truck alongside the St. Thomas Church. Although the flames weren't close to the church when they arrived, they believed the wind would soon send the flames their way. This was an important and decisive decision. The portion of the college campus destroyed covered 2.5 acres and housed 200 students. Several firemen were injured and taken to Bryn Mawr Hospital for treatment. Firemen fell in their tracks, their hands frozen to the cable-like hose lines. Others fell back, gasping from smoke-filled corridors. But they fought on until it seemed that human endurance could not continue any longer. It was reported that 2 firemen, John McCord and Samuel DeWeese, both members of the Washies, had their hands completely frozen to the fire hose nozzles. John Rigg of the Washington Fire Company was the most seriously hurt. He fell through a skylight, dropping 20 feet onto cement. He was picked up by fellow firefighters of the Washington Fire Company and rushed to the hospital. He suffered from painful injuries to his back and a deep incision on his head. 24 fire companies answered summons to battle the fire, which raged for nearly 12 hours and threatened the entire group of buildings. By morning, it was estimated that more than 10,000 persons gathered on the acres of the college to watch the buildings burn. Losses were estimated at $2 million, including works of art and scientific instruments. Looking back, it could have been a whole lot worse if it weren't for the knowledge and skill of the members of the Washington Fire Company. There were many devastating fires to follow, including the 1936 fire at Campbell's Furniture Store, once located at the corner of East Hector and Ash Streets. Hot, flaming embers threatened the downtown business district and landed on the rooftops in Cunnytown. By 1940, the Washington Fire Company was a well-oiled machine, providing fire protection throughout the Conshohocken community. They answered the calls, racing to automobile accident scenes to rescue victims, pumping out residents' basements following one of the many floods that have hit Conshohocken over the years, and helping residents in distress at every level. All of this was paid for with money raised by the firemen and the company's Ladies' Auxiliary. In 1941, The Washington Fire Company saw more than half of their active firemen serve in World War II and offered up a good portion of their active membership in 1950 for the Korean War, and of course for the Vietnam War in the 1960s. The 1970s brought on hard times for the fire company as they found themselves in what seemed like a war all their own. The urban redevelopment area that included Lower Fayette Street, Marble Street, Elm, and Hector Streets, where dilapidated stores were scheduled to be demolished, were set on fire. At one point in the mid-1970s, Sam Janizelli, Washington Fire Company fire chief, stated there were 12 fires in 12 nights. It wasn't a question of whether there was going to be a fire that night, said Janizelli, but where and what time. The scene coming off the Matson Ford Bridge entering Conshohocken was depressing to the residents and visitors. Boarded up storefronts, whitewashed windows, and remnants of fires with the burned remains of furniture and store fixtures laying out on the sidewalks for long periods of time hurt the image of the town. And yet, the Washington Fire Company worked to maintain a positive image of the borough. Ironically, while the Washington Fire Company was working to save the lower end of town, the urban redevelopment powers that be were working on taking their firehouse away from the firemen for the purpose of urban redevelopment. Following a decade of legal battles in and out of the courts, the fire company succeeded in keeping the firehouse from being demolished. Today, the former Washington Firehouse is a beautiful first-class restaurant and hotel entrance. More than 300 volunteer firefighters from 10 different fire companies from throughout the Montgomery County area, led by the Washington Fire Company, battled a fire at the Riverwalk at Millennium Apartment Complex located on Washington Street in 2008. It took more than 6 hours to bring the blaze under control. 2 complete buildings were burned and deemed uninhabitable, and 375 residents were displaced. The multi-million-dollar fire loss expanded to more than 5 apartment buildings, not to mention the many automobiles that were totaled in the fire. The cause of the fire was accidental. For more than 150 years, the Washington Fire Company has served the Conshohocken community, and thanks to the efforts of West and Maine, the Washington Firehouse, its ghost, and memories will be around for at least another 150 years. Conshohocken has become the financial hub of the East Coast. Visitors will travel from all over the world to do business in Conshohocken, staying at the West and Main Hotel. And at the center of their visit will be the old Washington Firehouse in all its glory, standing tall and beautiful, serving as a reminder of the brave men and women who contributed to the success of Conshohocken today.
Lieutenant 35, the command, priority. Command, good. Behind the Millennium Building, Bob, I got a firefighter who's ready to go down on me. I'm going to need EMS back here. Count, were you on where you went in first? Yeah, step 4. I'm going to need EMS back here for him. 143 portable, system 36. All you stand by on priority. County, Conshohocken Command on event 4. Where's your fireman down? We'll get EMS to him. Alright, step 4. I got EMS with me. Okay, Chief. SC-5622. 36 Command, your time. On 6 plane coming this way. Plane coming down off 65, going towards Northtown. County to SC-56-2. It's being taken care of. Lieutenant 35, the operation, down operation.
Deputy Chief, I need you to swing over to the right and hit that hot spot at the corner there. Everything is burning right there. You see me?
We are staged. Ashland, Washington. The one building to the left. Ashland, Washington. If you're looking at the residence, then with 2 buildings to the left.
Conshohocken Fire Police Command from SC-45-3, Utility 45. Assistant 48-3 to the interior crew. Firefighter McCluskey. No fireground 6. County, SP44, Ford, 1C.
Receive that.
SP43, we really need to shut this bridge down. Alright, I'll stay on fireground 5. Let me know if you need anything. Alright. Stay in and out. If you guys think you can hit it, or if you're all right there, actually we got the squirt 82 that's going to try to set up and get that other building. 31's also tried.
Take the building, abort the operation.
Okay, 45, track side coming out the tower. Johnson 5, or command.
Conshohocken Command to County. Conshohocken Command, go with your message, we're answering.
We have now heavy fire showing from the roof. Heavy fire showing from the roof.
That's gas.
That way, we're just fly. And I'll Engineer 35, direct you in the rest of the way. Okay, we're in Elm and Harry right now. You're saying you want us to go to Oak Street? 10-4. It's on the other side of the main street. You come down and lay underneath the bridge, so we're all block wall back. Okay, we're in the process of turning the apparatus around. We have both the engine and the squad will have about 1,500 feet each.
42 on operator to command. Squad 36 to FM 42-1. Clean, go over 5. Event 5.
Also, could you have the railroad shut down their lines? They got a line going across railroad track. Okay, we'll work on the railroad. Alright, be advised, I got a line going across the tracks right now.
Assistant 48-3 to Conshohocken Command.
Conshohocken Command from Assistant 35.
Conshohocken Command, guys. Command, be advised, the roof of the 4,000 building has suffered a partial collapse. I have not been able to ascertain if the building is completely evacuated. We're trying to get a ladder set up on this side. Right, 10-4. How many ladders do we have on that side?
Ladder 6 to command. We're standing by at Washington and the entrance to Riverwalk right now. If you want us somewhere else, let us know.
Command, I have ladder 29 setting up now. They tell me ladder 45 and ladder 48 are on Washington Street.
Assistant 48-3 to command. Be advised, we're set up with no water supply yet.
There's nothing on the inside. We can't see the roof where we're at. Also, we're pulling out because we have no water. Alright, 10-4, pull out of there. Try to get more water to the temple here. Assistant 36. Waiting for Center Alley. Command, Assistant 36. Be advised, they're just getting dispatched for that. Alright, Chief, if you could, upon their arrival, we could have them come down the driveway to the center of Riverwalk.
Evacuation, out now.
We're backing out now. Shoot, make sure you go to the track side. Go to the track side and come down that tower. Copy. Okay, 45, okay, 45-1. Okay, Matt. Make sure you exit. Here, use the tower on this